Only one place on Earth is called the Holy Land by three of the world's greatest religions. Deep in the Middle East, this is Israel, a nation smaller than most US states, with no oil, no major rivers, no minerals worth mining, surrounded by neighbors who have sworn to destroy it. 8 major wars in 75 years. By every rule of geography, it should have vanished decades ago. Instead, hidden behind the headlines of conflict, you'll discover something extraordinary. Ancient survival wisdom that became cutting-edge innovation. Desert blooming where nothing should grow. Cities rising from empty sand dunes. Technologies born from impossible conditions that now feed crops in 110 nations. Today, we're taking you beyond the politics to see the hidden wonders that created one of Earth's most impossible success stories. At 1,444 feet below sea level, the lowest point on land anywhere on Earth, the Dead Sea sits like a silver mirror reflecting ancient cliffs. The water is so still that it looks metallic, so salty that nothing swims here, nothing lives. Yet for thousands of years, people built palaces on these toxic shores. Herod the Great chose this scorched valley for his winter retreat because the extremity itself marked power. The minerals magnesium, potassium, bromine made this dead water one of antiquity's most valuable industrial sites. What kills also heals. What poisons also preserve. But the sea is disappearing. Water levels drop nearly 3 feet every year. What was once 50 miles long is now barely 30. Along the retreating shoreline, over 500 sinkholes have opened like wounds in the earth, swallowing roads and hotels without warning. In the Timna Valley, ancient people learned an even harder lesson about mining value from impossibility. 19 miles north of the Gulf of Aqaba, Timna Valley opens like a wound in the earth. This semicircular basin, 35 square miles wide, holds 2 billion years of Earth's interior exposed in vertical bands. White limestone, red Nubian sandstone, dark granite core, and threading through it all, seams of malachite green and turquoise blue copper ore. The sand shifts between red, orange, gray, and pale blue-green, stained by 6,000 years of extraction. Since 3,500 BC, people have mined copper from these cliffs, making this among the oldest industrial sites on Earth. The Egyptians built a temple to Hathor here, patron goddess of miners, organizing smelting operations that ran continuously in 110-degree heat. But the mines didn't fail because copper ran out. They failed because the fuel ran out. Ancient smelters burned through every acacia and white broom tree in the desert. The ecological scar is still visible in satellite imagery today, an absence that hasn't recovered in 3,000 years. High above this industrial graveyard, another kind of survival intelligence was being tested. Rising 1,300 feet above the Dead Sea, on a flat-topped plateau, Masada appears to float like an island of pale stone suspended above salt flats and metallic water. Herod the Great built this fortress between 37 and 31 BC, not as a monument, but as a survival machine calibrated for the worst-case scenario he knew would always arrive. Cisterns carved into northern rock held nearly 200,000 gallons of water, a runoff system so precisely engineered it could fill from a single day's rainfall. 12 storehouses held food for a decade. The hanging palace, 3 terraces cantilevered off the sheer cliff, was so architecturally audacious that Roman engineers who later besieged it acknowledged what had been built. In 73 CE, Romans arrived with 15,000 soldiers, moved 500,000 tons of earth to build a siege ramp, and found 960 people dead inside. The ramp still stands nearly 2,000 years later. But in the heart of the Negev, an even more extraordinary formation reveals 220 million years of Earth's secrets in a single glance. Mitzpe Ramon is not a meteor impact. It's something rarer, a Matsuke, a geological formation unique to the Negev, formed over hundreds of millions of years as limestone eroded from within, leaving a natural bowl 25 miles long and 6,100 feet deep. The walls expose 220 million years of Earth's interior in bands of red sandstone, cream limestone, black volcanic intrusion, and orange sediment. A geological timeline readable by anyone willing to stand still and look. The floor is scattered with ammonite fossils and prism-shaped formations that look genuinely alien. The Negev covers 60% of Israel, but receives less than 8 inches of rain annually. Most outsiders see emptiness. Bedouin communities who've lived here for over 1,000 years read a map written in water signs, soil color, and seasonal wind. The desert isn't empty. It's dense with information. But what about a city built on literally nothing? In 1909, 66 Jewish families stood on empty sand dunes beside the Mediterranean and distributed land parcels by lottery. The founding photograph shows them surrounded by nothing but sand and sky. No ruins, no holy site, no trade route, just an empty beach where they decided to build a city. Within a century, that sand became the White City, over 4,000 Bauhaus and international-style buildings, the largest concentration of modernist architecture on Earth. A UNESCO World Heritage Site that continues to subside grain by grain back into unstable ground. Today, Tel Aviv hosts more startups per capita than any city on Earth. Israel spends 5% of GDP on research and development, the highest rate globally. Unit 8200, the military's Signals Intelligence Division, trained the founders of companies worth hundreds of billions. The military became a vocational pipeline for an economy with no natural resources. A city built on sand decided instability wasn't a problem to solve, but a condition to build from. High in the northern mountains, mystical wisdom was being shaped by entirely different forces. At 2,950 feet in the upper Galilee, Safed climbs in concentric terraces of blue-painted stone and arched passageways that cling to the hillside like a geological formation rather than a planned city. Medieval scholars describe the light here as structurally different from valley light, thinner, cooler, more precise. In the 16th century, Safed became the center of Kabbalah, the mystical tradition concerned with the hidden structure of divine reality. Rabbi Joseph Caro codified Judaism's foundational legal text in these blue alleyways. Rabbi Isaac Luria developed cosmological frameworks so complex that they reshaped not just Jewish thought, but also filtered into European mysticism and early philosophy. The scholars chose this specific mountain because of what the mountain made possible in their minds. Geography wasn't incidental to thought, it was essential to it. The 1837 earthquake killed 4,000 people in one morning, ending Safed's scholarly era. But on Mount Carmel, another community discovered how to create beauty as an act of pure resistance. Mount Carmel rises steeply from the Mediterranean at Haifa, covered in pine forest. On its western face, the Bar Gardens descend in 19 terraces of mathematical precision, fountains, sculpted hedges, stone paths, and a gold-domed shrine aligned perfectly from port to summit. Half a mile of geometric order pressed into wild stone. The Bar faith was founded in 19th century Persia, its leaders imprisoned and executed by authorities who viewed their teachings as dangerous. The central figures weren't brought to Haifa by pilgrimage, they were brought in chains, exiled to the Ottoman prison city of Acre. What began as forced displacement became permanent beauty. The gardens, maintained by thousands of volunteer pilgrims who arrive in silence and work without pay, represent a community that decided, under persecution, that the most radical possible act was sustained creation of beauty. But hidden in the Judean desert, fresh water breaks through impossible stone to create an ancient miracle. On the western shore of the Dead Sea, where white chalk cliffs meet toxic water, something impossible happens. Fresh water springs from solid rock. Ein Gedi, two streams cascading down Judean cliffs in waterfalls and pools before disappearing into salt flats below. Within a 10-minute walk, the landscape shifts from bare stone to dense fig trees and papyrus reeds. Summer temperatures drop 30 degrees between exposed rock and waterfall spray. Nubian ibex with architecturally impossible horns move through the falls with the ease of animals who've lived here longer than most civilizations. People have gathered at this spring since 4000 BC. A Chalcolithic temple. David is hiding among the rocks. Byzantine synagogues. Modern kibbutz, all are organized around the same 5-acre footprint of reliable water. The water you drink here fell as rain decades ago, percolating through limestone before arriving as a delayed gift from storms before you were born. But in the vast Negev, the Bedouin developed even deeper survival wisdom. For over 1,000 years, the Negev Bedouin have inhabited the desert, receiving less than 8 inches of rain annually. Where outsiders see emptiness, they read a vocabulary of water, pasture, and shelter written in soil color, rock formation, and plant distribution. Knowledge requiring generational transmission that constitutes the most accurate map of this terrain ever made. Black goat hair tents woven in adjustable panels maintain interior temperatures 15 degrees cooler than outside air passive cooling systems modern architects spend decades studying. Seasonal migration moved livestock on cycles calibrated to rainfall patterns going back centuries. But 35,000 Bedouin now live in villages classified as illegal structures, receiving no electricity, no road access, no services. Israeli research institutions study their water harvesting techniques, publishing findings used on multiple continents. The knowledge is being extracted. The people are being moved. Both processes happen simultaneously in the same desert. And this reveals the deepest truth about Israel itself. Israel is a nation of 9 million people with no oil, no major rivers, and no mineral wealth. Territory smaller than most US states. 8 major wars in 75 years. By every standard model of development, it should be an agricultural economy at best. Instead, it generates more NASDAQ companies than any nation except America, Canada, and China. Spends 5% of GDP on research highest globally. Its technologies include cybersecurity, protecting dozens of nations, agricultural innovations across 6 continents, and medical devices in hospitals that have never heard of Israel. The mechanisms are structural. Mandatory military service puts virtually every young person through high-complexity systems before age 20. In a country that fought for existence every decade, improvising under radical uncertainty isn't an advantage, it's a prerequisite. Israel shouldn't exist by any logic, sits on a widening tectonic rift. Freshwater is disappearing at a rate of 3 feet per year. Holiest city on waterless hill, the newest city on unstable sand. Yet it persists through disciplined refusal to treat impossibility as a final answer. And as climate pressure narrows the world's boundaries of survival, that refusal becomes everyone's curriculum. Israel is not a political anomaly waiting to be explained. It's a nation that learned, across 3,000 years, how to thrive in conditions of fundamental scarcity. Every innovation, drip irrigation, cybersecurity, military adaptability came not from abundance, but from pressure. As the world faces what Israel has always faced: water scarcity, extreme heat, resource limitation, Israel's knowledge becomes urgent. Not because Israel is special, but because the conditions that made Israel exceptional are becoming a global baseline. Standing at the disappearing Dead Sea, walking through sinkholes it leaves behind, seeing Tel Aviv built on sand by people with no other option, this is what the future looks like. Not apocalypse. Ordinary, survivable, full of possibilities for those willing to think like Israelis always had to think. Impossibility is Israel's native language, and the world is learning to speak it. The hidden wonders of Israel aren't just ancient ruins or geological formations. They're lessons carved into landscape and encoded in innovation. The Dead Sea disappears while teaching resource limits. The desert blooms through drip irrigation, now feeding 110 nations. Tel Aviv rises from sand to become the world's tech capital. This teaches that survival intelligence isn't abstract theory, it's learned through repeated encounters with scarcity. Israel is teaching what the future requires. Which wonder moved you most? The disappearing sea? Masada's fortress endurance? Bedouin reading empty landscapes? Share which aspect revealed something about resilience and our collective future.